Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Williams, and you are either listening or watching to another episode of Retail Redeveloped. I'm excited right now. This is the first live podcast I've done in a few weeks, and I'm excited to be joined by Michael Osborne, who is the president of Wunderkind. He's got 30 years of experience in marketing technology, established industry leader, trusted by major brands all over, Bloomingdale's, Hilton, a lot of others. But I'm going to let him introduce himself and just tell us a little bit about kind of who he is and what he does. And then we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about what everybody wants to talk about: recovery, retail, what's new, what's changed, a lot of the things you hear me talk about, week in and week out here. But honestly, things are changing at such a rapid pace right now that it's kind of fun to look forward as opposed to looking backwards. And honestly, just open our eyes and look around, because things are in such a transition that it's frankly every single day. I feel like I'm getting hit with new information and new trends and just new conversations that I'm having. And Michael, retail nerd, I can't wait to talk retail with you here for the next few minutes. But Before we start, tell everybody who you are and what you do and why they should listen in for the next 30 minutes about what you're doing.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you for that. Michael Osborne, president of Wunderkind. I've been in retail on the vendor side pretty much my entire career. Started out at a web analytics firm, Core Metrics, in client services in that organization. So I learned how to work with retailers and understand their data. Got to work with some phenomenal brands. Went on to run sales at a company called Bazaar Voice that did ratings and reviews back in the day. Again, mostly retail focus all over the globe with that business. So I got to know the differences in retail markets across Europe and Asia Pac. It was, an exciting time. Took the company public back in 2012. And then joined Smarter HQ as CEO, focused on personalization and really getting into the heart of what marketers do to message their customers and drive more effective communications with them, obviously to drive business results, but also to drive long-term loyalty and personalized messages across the touch points that they had with their customers so that they had a better experience. We were then acquired by Wunderkind last year and actually got the whole deal done during COVID, which was fascinating.
Super easy to do.
Yeah, super easy, right? Nothing but
no
6-hour Zooms all day long. So it was great. But acquired by Wunderkind and now have taken over as president, basically overseeing the commercial organization. So Wunderkind serves some of the best brands on the planet, hundreds of customers, has been around for a very long time, 10 years now, founded by Ryan Urban, who's our CEO. And as president, I work with him basically overseeing the sales, marketing, client services organization. So a lot of the things that I've done in my career, again, focused on retail, but really excited to be here today. And like you mentioned, kind of a retail nerd. So happy to chat about all of it.
Do me a favor before we get into your retail specific, tell everybody, get granular if you don't mind, about what Wunderkind does.
Totally.
I know a lot of data, a lot of analytics, a lot of marketing focused analytics, but walk us through what your normal client looks like, what your normal process looks like. Give us a little bit of meat on what exactly you guys do, just for context.
Yeah, for sure. So Wunderkind essentially has turned email marketing and personalization into a performance marketing channel. So a lot of marketers think of Google and Facebook as the only performance marketing channels that exist, where you just put more money into it, get more money back out of it. Wunderkind has taken that to the next level with both email and text messaging, leveraging behavioral data across a given brand's web properties and mobile apps to understand that consumer, understand when to trigger the right message and how to do so, and then optimizes that with outstanding creative, phenomenal experiences that then drive extreme revenue lift. The secret sauce behind what we do that powers all of that to really go well above what others can do in market is our ability to identify more of the unknowns that come to a given web property. So our identity graph and the ability for us to identify more users as they come to the site allows us to then understand what they've done in the past, where they are in that journey, and trigger the right messages going forward so that customer then converts and becomes a loyal long-term repeat customer. We have phenomenal brands under management, like you mentioned, Bloomingdale's, but also brands like Samsung, brands like Mack Weldon, right? One of my favorite brands personally. Some phenomenal companies that are doing amazing things for their customers. And we're just helping enable them to get the messages out at the right time, to also deliver a much better and higher quality, more beautiful message, right? Something that the experience is wonderful. All of that converts into just benefit for that business. And we focus on revenue. That our customers are those retailers. So we want them to generate phenomenal percentage gains in what they do when they use us. We're able to accomplish that through all of what I just mentioned.
So what are the unknowns? You said you guys are able to track the unknown properties that a user brings. Is that just your guys' way of saying that you get to know the customer better than they know themselves, or what exactly are those unknowns?
Yeah.
Like, walk me through that. Again, I'm let's be honest, I'm a half-wit real estate guy that happens to know a lot about retail. So you gotta dumb it down for me a little bit.
No worries. Yeah. So specifically what I mean are unknowns, like when someone goes to a website, you may not know who they are, right? It's not so much knowing unknowns about them per se, but you may not know who they are. So you go to the website and you get that message, you're a new customer, 15% off for giving me your email address. Well, guess what? I'm not a new customer. So I'm kind of annoyed because I didn't get that offer.
Why is the new guy getting the discount?
So, but if I know who you are and it's, hey, Michael Osborne, you're a repeat customer and wow, you are one of our high value customers. So you might get a different path, right? You might get a different experience on the website itself, but also the messaging and follow-up are going to be tailored to the fact that I am already a brand loyalist and you already know so much about me, my buying patterns, my history, et cetera, that you're able to tailor those messages in order to drive, future benefit out of me, right? Whether it's purchasing more products or simply more brand awareness. What if there's a product launch? I might be one of the first people you want to message, because if that new product is something I might buy, then you putting it in my inbox sooner than anyone else, I might buy it at full price, as opposed to something like a promo needed down the road to erode your margin, but to get the sale. So when we talk about unknowns to knowns, it means identifying who I am when I come to the site, who each person is when they go to the site,
what your preferences are. Yeah,
exactly. Making sure that we know what they like, what the next message should be, and also what channel to send them something on. It might be that they respond best to email. It might be that they respond best to text. If we know those preferences, we're going to optimize around that to make sure that those interactions are tailored to the specific best possibles for each of those users.
So obviously this is a practice that has probably only been around. You said you guys have been around for 10 years. I would say that's probably almost the life cycle of this specific type of targeted marketing. What has been the biggest change? I mean, changes you guys' life, right? I mean, I'm sure it changes every day. Probably just changed with the latest iPhone update, right? Like sure. I'm sure that changes constantly. But what has been the big change for you guys in the last year or two? Like, what has been kind of a sea change event for you guys?
Well, I mean, I'll come back to it, but barring COVID is the number one response anyone's going to say, right? The underlying changes that were going on before that, though, were already the tilt towards mobile. Mm-hmm. The tilt towards a faster, easier checkout experience, the tilt towards more and more filters being applied to a given consumer's overall attention span, right?
Right.
They were getting inundated with messages, so email became less and less likely to convert unless it was really tailored, really specific. They were doing more and more shopping on their mobile device, so the ability for that content to be delivered in a format that made sense for them and still delivered a great experience on a much smaller screen was very important. The ability to understand that they're doing it from multiple devices. They have an iPad, they got a tablet, they got a phone, they got a desktop, they got a work machine, and cross identification across all those, being able to know that it's the same person no matter where they're browsing from, was also part of the sea change, at least in what was required. So for companies like Wunderkind and now the same capabilities of Smarter HQ, but now within that, it was a requirement that we adapted to that ability to track that individual across all properties, but also to understand what their behavior was and which channel was most likely to be received positively by the consumer. The shift towards mobile is still underway. It's not, it's certainly not 100% mobile traffic yet, but it keeps climbing. COVID certainly drove a lot of change as well. Right. We saw certain categories in retail go absolutely through the roof, as you'd expect. And others really struggle. Yeah. Home goods, grocery for sure. And a lot of grocers going online now that with pickup in store or deliver to home, that was a level of e-commerce applied to things like groceries that was not there before COVID.
Have you checked out Farmstead yet? In your market?
No, I have not.
Check out Farmstead. You'll like it. They're trying to take the mobile grocery ordering to the next level. Yeah. Very, very interesting concept.
Yeah.
I just tried it for the first time the other day. Still not perfect, but it's pretty impressive to see kind of how quickly that's moving.
I got to check it out.
Let me ask you kind of a hard question.
Sure.
In my world, greedy capitalist pig developer real estate guy, right? Just let's get that out of the way. We have to think a lot about smart development, dirty words in our business like gentrification. How do we balance capitalism with not running out less privileged, less affluent people because we just want to put up sexy, glitzy retail and density, because obviously density fuels retail, brick and mortar retail at least. So we constantly have to kind of wrestle with that, both personally and then publicly when we're getting things approved. Sure. And going through all the entitlements and things like that. We've got to wrestle with that. I assume your version of that would be kind of privacy and like how much information is too much.
Yep.
When does it go from your words like beautiful experiences and customization to, creepy big brother, right? Yeah. Like how do you guys manage that? And how far is too far? Like how do you guys manage that in your world?
Yeah. So obviously with a business like ours, privacy is one of the top concerns. Everything that we do has to be completely above board, absolutely in line with GDPR, with CCPA, and with what we believe are the future policies and roles that each organization is going to have to play, even reacting to some of the changes that Apple or Google or Facebook will make.
Right. Like real time that you don't even know is coming, right?
Yeah. Right. Real time. We have to anticipate that. And we have, right? Technologically, we've anticipated it in ways that allow us to continue to perform the identification required to deliver such a great experience without violating any, data capture or data usage policies, whether they be law or just good practice. Completely white hat, right? It has to be. We have the consumer at heart with everything that we do. And the way that I look at it, just by doing this now for years with Smarter HQ and with Wunderkind, is we're trying to use the data that a consumer wants to share, because they do have to opt in to marketing emails. They do have to opt in to receive these communications. And we communicate clearly what data we capture, and it's really just the behavioral data and maybe that email address and or a phone number if they decide to opt in and give it to us. It's all in exchange for a much better user experience and potentially much better benefits to the end consumer, right? With whether that be with respect to promotions and other discounts that they may receive, loyalty benefits that they may receive. We're enabling all of that on behalf of our brands, right? So none of the data that we capture is something that we just want ourselves at Wunderkind. It's all because the brands that we serve are actively communicating to their consumers, their customers. We are taking this data in exchange for these benefits. And that's something that I think, it can get lost on the consumer when you just hear like kind of the black helicopters of the internet, I'm being tracked everywhere kind of thing. It's not that, right? This is in order to provide you with a better experience. And it's always your choice to opt out.
Right.
We respect that. We have to. So it's a balance. And it's honestly one that is an exchange that I think consumers have done for hundreds of years. In exchange for something, they're willing to do so in order to get something in return. If that benefit outweighs what they perceive the risk or loss to be, then it's absolutely in their best interest to do so. We want to make that obvious, right? And make sure that it's always above board. So our roadmaps and our future, our research, where we're going with the product and our capabilities, all take that into account.
So let me switch gears a little bit. Obviously I'm a brick and mortar retail guy, right? That's where my passion is. Restaurants, soft goods, just walking in to an incredible, retail district, whether it's in, a smaller city like where I'm from, Charlotte, North Carolina, or whether I'm going to Manhattan and I'm walking through Chelsea or Soho and just like, it's like, oh my God, like one incredible experience after another. It's something that I really enjoy and take seriously. And it's you guys' job to try to figure out how to transfer that brick and mortar on, in-person experience to this thing that, we all are obsessed with.
Totally.
How do you make that transfer, and how successful can you be? Right. Like I can't imagine. People always tell me that I'm missing the boat, and I'm boomer or whatever funny other thing that people can say. It's like, you're crazy. Like, everything's going to be bought online. Right.
Right.
But when you walk into a well-curated, well-designed store, it's hard to replicate that online for certain things, right? Like, I just was on Walmart.com and bought some crap that I didn't want to go anywhere to get, and I got it cheaper and faster and better. It'll be at my front door tomorrow, right? So I get that the commodity purchases and I just want the cheapest, fastest one. That's gone. If that's your business, brick and mortar, you're toast. Yeah. But how do you guys go the extra mile to try to bring that experience on a 3x5 notebook card or a
little tiny screen? Yeah, a couple of comments on that, and I actually want to come back to a bit. I'll push back a little bit on the commodity products are just gone, and that's all online only. I mean, sure, Amazon's trying, Walmart.com is killer, but I think brands like Target have really figured out how to make both work, right? Both and the experiential.
100%.
But to answer your question first, it's all about the consumer experience via each channel, right? You walk into a store and it's well lit, it's well organized. The staff look like they know what they're going to talk about. They want to help you. It is a pleasing experience, right?
Like Sephora. Like, my wife will just freaking love going to Sephora because it's just so well, it's just tactical. They do an incredible job.
Yeah. Yeti's a brand here out of Austin that I'm a big fan of.
I was just there, and I was trying to go to that big flagship store they have on Second Avenue.
Awesome. Yeah.
I just ran out of time, and I'm still pissed because even from the outside, it looks really cool.
It's practically a destination in Austin, right? It's one of those cool places to go. And
that whole little music lane development is really that restaurant ABBA. Woo, I just want to go and hang. That play, and Soho House is about to open. Really cool stuff going down in that little neighborhood.
Exactly the response you just had, right? Like, the whole experience of that area where the physical location is and everything, that's exactly what they want, right?
Yep.
And you want to walk into that store and be like, man, I want to be out camping and carrying the stuff. I want to go fishing and do this. I want to have my giant cooler in the back of my truck. Like, they want you to feel the brand.
Yeah.
You can't do that online. Nope. It's not the same thing as feeling the restaurant next door and the scene in Austin around you and the experience when you walk into that big showroom. But what they can do is know more than what you would in an offline situation about what you've clicked through and what you've looked at, and how many times have you come back, and did you put it in your cart? Did you buy it or did you not? What did you buy? What did you buy last time? When was the last time you bought? When you walk into that store, that service personnel, they have no idea of any of that. They might know what you
and they might be having a bad day. They might not even give a shit. You know what I mean?
A bad day. They might not catch the one person who did pick up and look at the price tag on one of the tumblers and think, ooh, maybe that's too expensive. They could have gone over and said something like, trust me, this thing will last you a lifetime, and it's the best tumbler you'll ever have. So don't worry about paying $30. They can't do that, right? But when you're online and you're clicking through, you've got this experience built up. Services like ours, what we provide at Wunderkind, we do know all of that, and we know the patterns, and we can say this person is likely to purchase. So we need to remind them that they left this in their cart. This item, Yeti doesn't do this very often, but this item is on sale. So they looked at it, they were interested. Maybe this price point works for you. So there's pros and cons, right? We're not going to be able to replicate the experience of a flagship brand doing something that they know is an extreme investment of cost in that experience for their consumer. We are able to replicate, however, a tailored experience for each of those visitors that come to a website that have looked at things, tried to buy things, i.e. maybe got it into the cart but didn't purchase it, or maybe failed, maybe literally had an issue trying to enter information and it just bombed out, so they quit. All of those types of experiences we can solve for. And that improves the user experience for sure. Particularly once you're familiar with the brand and you know a lot about them, you might just prefer, like, I don't go to the Yeti store to buy more Yeti stuff now. I already know I love it. So I'm going online and I'm making it an easier transaction for me, getting it shipped to the house. Doesn't mean I don't love that brand the same way I did the first time I walked in the store. It just means that I'm interested in now getting more of their product. I'm happy to do that. I'll do it online.
Did you just notice a tiny blonde-haired cherub-looking thing walk through?
You got a helper back there.
Yeah, summer podcasting from home is fun. It's really fun.
Awesome.
Anyway, so let me, getting away from my mischievous children and back to retail. A couple of things that I want to talk to you about. Sure. One is actually exactly what you just touched on, and what we call the halo effect, because we're nerds and we have to have some kind of term for everything. Yeah. I'm fascinated by this halo effect, and by you and I talking about that Yeti store, right? Like, I feel like going in there, I'm that much more likely to spend an extra 20% on that tumbler. Totally. Or cooler, when I know that Arctic is the same stuff for 25% less, right? Totally. Because of that environment, that ecosystem that they kind of create.
Yep.
So what do you guys see as halo effect? Warby Parker, I think, was probably the first to really drill down and establish some actual data around that, or some nouveau data around that.
Yeah.
Because they could look at the data. They know how many humans are purchasing through, Amex reports and all the other customer data. They look, my zip code is 28210.
Yeah.
I know that I have 850 customers from that zip code. If I put a store there, that goes up to 3,000, right? And they can see that they're not only being purchased in the store, but I might go in the store, look at it, to your point, try it on. Okay, this frame fits me, but I'm not ready to buy today. I go home and I buy it in a week, or next time I get a paycheck, whatever it is.
Yep.
So what do you guys see from the halo effect? And then, kind of second part question, how do these two sides of the coin that we're talking about, one being killer brick and mortar customer experience, and two being you guys kind of, hunt, kill online data collection and sales, like how do what do those two look like? Can they cohabitate in the future? And what do those things look like in 12, 24, 36 months when COVID is hopefully more of like a bad memory than something we're still trying to grapple with?
Totally. So, I mean, to be honest, they have to coexist. Mm-hmm. And there are, even in our industry, others that do things similar to what Wunderkind does. The reason that, we're truly set apart is because we, at our core, get that. We understand that the experience, it's not a hunt and kill. It's not a simple trigger where it's just, you didn't buy it, I'm going to beat you over the head with an email every day until you do. Right. That's not a good experience for a consumer. Mm-hmm. And, even depending on the consumer themselves, like some of them may need one or two responses. Some of them may need 3 or 4 before they do purchase, whatever, but you want to make each of those experiences something that they want to open. So everything from the artwork, the content, the display of the content itself, the way that it's presented and how it's presented on like a mobile device, because that can be a big challenge technically for marketers to make that adapt to whether it's a website on a computer or a website on a phone. All of those things have to be taken into account. And the way that we both solicit the information that we need to get from them, i.e. an email address or a phone number if we don't know who they are before, and then how we follow up with them has to be a beautiful experience. It has to be something that is truly enjoyable to the consumer, because if it's not, to your point, you might want to go in the store, you like going in the store, it's a good experience, whatever, but then you just get these terrible emails timed poorly and way over spammed.
Unsubscribe.
It turns you away, right? That brand now is tainted in your mind. They are no longer a brand that you think of as highly, because the experience that you had post was not good. And that is something that we absolutely work with our customers about, right? And there are folks in the industry that don't. And they may be effective for a little while, but retailers will know this. The data will show you the unsub rate from those kinds of campaigns gets high. And right. All you're doing is now having to reacquire that customer, which is really expensive, possibly having to use promotional dollars again to discount and to come back. And you've burned loyalty points with those customers, right? That's not the right way to go if you want to build a brand that over time is seen as, truly exemplary. We have Gucci as a customer. They're an outstanding brand, one of the top in the world as far as how they present themselves to their customer.
Also create incredibly beautiful stores.
incredibly beautiful, like legitimate museum quality stuff.
Yeah, like artwork. Yeah, it's
Absolutely
insane. Yeah, it's artwork.
There's a reason why, they're a brand that would work with someone like us, because they know we're going to be able to meet their brand standards. And that's the marriage of both the quality as well as the execution of the content, and also the messaging that is appropriate for each of those brands' strategies. We have other customers that are happy to send a lot of messages. They want to. That's what their users expect. It's what their customers expect. So then we help them deliver on that. There are others that want that very refined, and we're able to deliver on that too. It really just comes down to making sure the experience is right wherever you're doing it, right? And you have different weapons. You have different capabilities in a store versus online versus text. All of those things are very different, and some have their limitations. You just have to work within them.
That's awesome. Well, Michael, you've already been extremely generous with your time. I usually like to finish with some kind of quick knee-jerk kind of questions to just like top of mind. Let's fire. But before that, just do me a favor. Let people know how they can find out more about you, how they can connect with you. How they can find out more about Wunderkind. Just give everybody a little bit of intel about how they can connect with you guys and find out more about what you do.
Yeah. So our website is wunderkind.co. So please go ahead, check that out. You can get a lot of information there, and also how to contact us if you're interested in learning more. Happy to give my work email address out. If anyone wants to reach out to me directly, I'm happy to have these kinds of conversations with anyone who's interested. It's just osborne@wunderkind.co. So please do let me know if you're interested, and I'm happy to have the conversation. The website can tell you most of the rest of what you need to know about us. And then, of course, when you need to know more, let me know.
All right. You ready for some knee-jerk questions?
Please, by all means.
All right. So take Gucci, take Bloomingdale's Hilton, take your crew out of it. Tell me somebody that is really killing it for you in the retail space right now. Somebody that is innovating, somebody that's staying on top of the game, or maybe they're brand new. Tell me somebody that's impressing you right now.
Yeah. So Target, we mentioned them earlier, but as far as some of the larger brands go, Target has transformed themselves over the last 2 decades from what would be considered as cohorts with, like a Walmart or way back in the day. Venture was another brand of a store that had basically the same kind of product mix. And they weren't viewed as high end. And so they were not viewed as I want to go there intentionally to browse and shop. They have upped their game massively in the last decade and have done really well in the consumer experience throughout all channels. The stores look nice. The product selection and assortment is fantastic. They've added in product lines and partnered with other very well-known promoter type folks or celebrities to deliver products that are unique and bespoke just to Target.
Yep.
The mobile app is fantastic. Their offers and the way that you can pay using the app in the store, online, however you want to go, it just makes it an easier experience. And I think something that they've figured out, and other retailers have as well, but they've really done a good job of this, is if you make it really easy to buy, people will do that. Right. If you make it challenging, if your checkout process is too long, if it's too complicated, if it's not pre-populated, if they don't maintain that information about you and make it super easy for you to hit a button and go, you might not buy. And every time you don't do that, you're less loyal to the brand. So I just think they've done a really good job of that. Their buy online, pick up in store was ready instantly when COVID hit. They were already doing it, but they amped it up big time. And I think they've zeroed in on a market where even the most affluent shoppers will see Target as a place they can go and buy product. Oh, yeah. And that's a spectrum that's hard to hit. Walmart has tried. They've done better, but not nearly as well as Target.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Like my wife will go to Target without even thinking about it. And just, it doesn't feel the same way about Walmart, no matter what. Now, maybe it could be the locations. We have an urban Target that's like right in the middle of the city, and it's
that is part of the experience. Though. I mean, you think about it, like their strategy has been to put locations in certain spots where they're attracting, the breadth of consumer. Don't get me wrong. Walmart has crushed it from a logistics standpoint.
Crushed it. Their new app. I mean, it's great. People make fun of me because I think Walmart has done an unbelievable job.
Amazing job.
And I am to the point now where if I'm making these, like, I just need one kind of purchases, I am just as likely to go there for certain types of things as I am Amazon.
Yep.
Because they've just crushed it. Their app is incredible.
They're the only ones right now that are challenging Amazon from a logistics standpoint. Right. And they still have, I read the statistic, I think it was late last year, 90% of the US population lives within 10 miles of a Walmart.
Yeah.
If you think about that, like Amazon does not have that. Now they're doing great with same day deliveries and next day deliveries. That's fine. But if you really want to go pick it up right now, 90% of people could within 10 minutes.
It's incredible.
It's incredible, right? And
and way to not rest on your laurels. I mean, the amount of I don't know. I would actually be really curious to know this number. Somebody send me a message on this that knows this number, like how much they have invested in e-commerce in the last 7 years. I bet it is a staggering. It's like probably bigger than GDPs of most countries.
It is. It has to be, right? And they are at that level. If I were Target, I would be fearful of them because they're in the middle of their transformation from the rural location, the only store you can really go to, and the one that had the reputation of putting people out of business, towards being the in-store Amazon, where you can get everything you need within a day by just going into the store. It's fascinating to see how that's all playing out. But yeah, those two they come to mind as a lot of investment. I just think Target has the full rounded experience today. That kind of beats.
And to your point, I think they're going after a slightly different customer.
They are. I agree with that.
Okay, second question. That I don't know if we could count that as a knee jerk because that was supposed to be a knee jerk, and we took a minute on that. Legacy versus kind of nouveau direct to consumer brands, digitally native brands. How do those strategies differ? Right? Like, is it much harder for you to have a conversation with a Bloomingdale's or a Hilton that has been around for 20, 50 years, whatever it is, versus an Allbirds that their DNA is direct to consumer. They wouldn't think of doing it any other way than the way that you would preach this like hunt, gather, kill, track kind of methodology. How are those conversations different between a legacy brand versus a new brand? And I'd love for you to touch on not Target, but a legacy brand that's doing well that you've been impressed with, and then somebody that's brand new to the game that maybe we should keep our eyes open for.
Yeah. So I mean, as we've talked about, I'm a retail wonk in the sense that I buy everything through online, and I constantly research new brands, and I do go into stores to understand their experience, but still love the online experience. So a lot of direct to consumer brands are near and dear to my heart. Folks like Mack Weldon. Allbirds for sure. I've got half a dozen pairs in my closet. Bombas socks. I love them. I mean, that's pretty much my entire. Yeah,
they've been stalking me on Instagram right now. Just you saying that, I'm probably going to get like 50 ads for those.
Probably so. They're great. A recent one I was introduced with is Vori clothing. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but I literally just received today a couple of their lounge shorts, and I love them. Right, they're just phenomenal. So some of that's still word of mouth, but. The difference you already highlighted, the difference is like the DNA of the direct to consumer brand. It starts with digital experience and a fantastic looking website at easy checkout and integrations with payment services and others, shipment services to make the experience great. I think it really just depends on the leadership and the focus and strategy of the legacy brands that are making the conversion into. Not so much today, because I think people are it's a foregone conclusion. You have to have a phenomenal digital experience. You have to have a phenomenal online experience. Whereas maybe 5, even 10 years ago, it was a different experience to talk to those folks that were legacy and not yet turning the corner. There were a number that still had their staunch belief that the store is more important than the online experience. And that's just not the case. They're equally important in different ways. I think Sam's Club is a great example of a brand has really turned the corner from, the warehouse experience. Sure, people like going in there and buying stuff in bulk, but if you go online, their website and the experience there is phenomenal. The app experience is wonderful, and they do a really good job of marketing to their consumers for those products that they know they buy a recurring basis, but they also buy by browsing through and then maybe buying at a certain time, like Super Bowl TVs. Right? They had a phenomenal campaign last year where anybody who had browsed the TV in the last few months. Right before the Super Bowl, they promoted those, didn't even offer any kind of discount, just promoted it and did really well. So those kinds of brands, thinking like old school as you can get, still being able to turn the corner and say, I understand the digital channel. I will both recruit and retain the best talent that knows how to do this for our brand. And then I will deploy those strategies with these, the massive amounts of investment that they can put to bear on it. They're willing to take advantage of that and transform. I do love a lot of the D2C brands. I love them. I think they're great. I think the product innovation is just at a, epic pace right now. And it's great for the consumer to have so many options, so many capabilities, and so many literally new products. But that doesn't mean that the legacy brands are out of it. It just means that they need to transition to the way that consumers want to interact, shop, and purchase. And the ones that are doing it, we've talked about a lot of them, are killing it. They're having a great time right now. The ones that haven't over the years, like a Sears, those guys are still around, but really, they're not doing it.
Walking.
Exactly. And everyone knows it. So it's like, those are the brands that you're still going to see fade out over time. The ones that don't convert and really adapt as the consumer changes. But the ones that do, it's just more opportunity to do things in a much better way.
All right. That was supposed to be the last question, but you made me want to ask one more.
Go for it.
New product fatigue. I mean, you mentioned that, Vori and there's, I could name another half a dozen. At what point is our attention span, getting jerked in so many different ways and so many different new products coming out. I mean, every time I get on Instagram, there's 5 new products I've never heard of that is just blasting me. Right. And it's like, okay, I don't have time to research these 50 new products.
Right.
Like, I just don't. So how do I, at what point does that kind of normalize, right?
Yeah.
Or does it not? Or is it just going to be such a hyper segmented and fractured market that we're going to have a million choices? Kind of like Spotify, right? Like it used to be, I used to buy a CD and have no choice. I just spent $20 on it or $15 on it. I was going to commit to it, where Spotify, it's just like a shotgun blast all the time, which I love. It's progress. I love Spotify. It's up in the background right now.
Totally.
But it does give you some kind of some fatigue.
Yeah. I think, like with most things, there's pros and cons to it. I think we will have a more and more fractured overall product base and the consumers that match to those products. I think the Darwinian effect of certain of those products really succeeding, they rise up in our attention filter to become something that we are now talking about. When your friends say, man, have you tried On Cloud shoes? Because they're amazing. And now, I remember seeing them 2 years ago on one person. And now I go through the airport and I see them on half the people walking through the airport. It's crazy. But that's because they broke through the noise and they have a legit product with a true story and a brand that is on point and really attracts consumer attention. And then they deliver on the experience, right? Part of the reason why Allbirds has been so successful is, sure, they look different. They sound comfortable. But then when you try them, they're amazing. And you love them. And they are reasonably priced. And you can, be yourself with all kinds of different styles and colors, and they've branched out. I think that the availability for individual brands to now be produced and still sold, even at a small scale, and yet still be profitable enough to exist, is phenomenal for the consumer, because there might be a niche reason why I need this one thing from a company that only makes a couple $100,000 a year selling their product. But that is good enough for the team behind it, because they are able to support themselves and be successful. You don't all have to grow to be a multi-$100 million brand in order for the consumer to see your product. But I do think there's just generally kind of a fittest survive. Right. And products that really do tap into a broader segment of the market, the products that really do deliver on an epic experience, get people to talk about it. And that word of mouth still matters even today. It's obviously spread digitally a lot. But, I still pay attention to what a handful of my friends recommend for new products. Vori clothing is absolutely a recommendation from a friend of mine. And I tried it and I'm like, great, now this is a brand I'm going to track. I turned friends onto OnCloud because I tried a pair of their shoes and loved them. And now half a dozen of them have those shoes. So it's that kind of back and forth that I think still happens. I do think the fast filter of if the brand can't survive, it's because they did not do any of those things right, still exists. But it's also easier to reach a broader swath of the consumer base and find your niche. So I love it, to be honest. It just means that there's more variety for me as a consumer. And a more easier way is for me to basically have what I need met. That's a good thing to the consumer, I think.
Absolutely. Always is. Michael Osborne, president of Wunderkind. My name, Adam Williams, Retail Redeveloped. So glad everybody took a few minutes out of their day to listen to us talk about retail And it's good to see somebody's face and get back on a podcast. I'm excited. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Adam.